What's going on? It's the Objective Jerk, and I'm said jerk. It's back. I guess I said it last time, but I don't know. It's my little catchphrase for the new people. Um, what's going on? Just got done, or there's a typhoon currently hitting us, but we're like on the outside of it, so we're just getting gray clouds, wind, and rain, which is great. It's kind of funny. I used to I lived a lot in Washington. I grew up in Washington and Utah, basically. I've lived in other places, but that's primarily where I grew up. And Washington is gray clouds and rain so much that you get tired of it. But here, with the sun and the heat, when it's gray and cloudy, it's like, oh, beautiful day. In Washington, it was like, oh man, another one? Gosh. So it's just kind of funny. I'm going to try a little something a little different with this one. I got some video clips that I want to talk about to support what I want to talk about. I'm going to see if I can get it to work right. I don't know. So I'm actually going to do some editing. So we'll see how it turns out. I mean, I've done some before, I guess, little stuff, but nothing major. I was going to play the video and do a voiceover about it, but I don't know. I didn't think I would talk. I don't think it'll work, so I'm just going to play the video, and then I'll talk about it. You'll see. Anyway, but before I get to that, the individual that was kidnapped here in the Philippines, for those that are following it, I talked about it on my last episode. Let's see, do I still have the paper? I wrote down information about it, but I think I threw it away. Dang it. Eastman was his last name. So the guy, he goes to southern Philippines, which most people know as a foreigner, as an American, it's not a good place to go. Just like Detroit's not a good place to go, right? Anyway, lions. But so he moves there, he marries his wife, he becomes Muslim, he's like a YouTuber, I guess. And he starts to get threats, and like people didn't like him, and they were telling him he was gonna get kidnapped and all this kind of stuff because he made videos about it, and then he stays there and he gets kidnapped. So it's kind of like, I mean, I still hope the guy makes it out and everything, but it's like, dude, that's the whole fuck around find out kind of thing, that completely fits the narrative right there. I don't know if that's the right words, but yeah, so far I haven't really looked today. I always do that. I need to look before I talk about it, right? But I know the FBI is in country trying to figure out where he went and who has him, but they haven't heard anything, no demands, anything. He was shot, but I guess they don't know. Some people say in the foot, some people say in the leg. So hopefully they dressed it and took care of it, because if not, that's not good. I really don't think he's going to make it out alive. That sucks to say. I hope so. I really do. But yeah, for anybody who's looking to retire over here in the Philippines, I always tell, like on TikTok or certain videos I watch, and they're like, these guys like, this is why I love Philippines and this and that. And I'm like, shut up, dude. Shut up. Quit making people come out here. But it is great. It is awesome. But if you're going to live in the Philippines, you got to live on the main island, Luzon, at the very least. Don't live down south. It's pretty down there, from what I'm told. Very, very pretty. But yeah, don't live down there. Look at this guy, right? So hopefully he makes it out. I don't know. But I am starting to see a little bit more traction on the media regarding it, so that's good, I guess. And that's probably why the FBI went out there. Anyway, on to what I'm going to talk about. So, like most people, I watch YouTube. I watch various channels on various things, politics, pop culture, whatever. There's one guy, or there's actually two guys that probably most people watch, that they go to places where movies were filmed, actual locations, or they go to where famous people lived and died, and then they're where they're buried and everything like that. The Grim Life Collective, I think it's called, is one that I watch. And then Scott on Tape, I think that's what it's called. Um, he's got like a little mohawk. But so I watch them every, like when I don't know, like a lot of times with YouTube, it's like I'm not really in the mood to watch a movie. I'm not in the mood to read. So if I'm just kind of like, I don't know what I want to do, but I just want to be lazy, I watch YouTube, and usually then I'll find something and then all of a sudden I'm watching a documentary on this and then kind of goes from there. So YouTube is kind of like the Wikipedia. It's a good starting point for entertainment, and then you just kind of. So I have like, channels that I follow. It's like a wide, a wrestling one, pop culture, that one where they're looking, the one I just talked about, political one, nerd erotic, crap like that. Some history ones. But anyway, so I was watching Scott on Tape, and he was showing the locations where they filmed The Sandlot. Now, for those that don't know The Sandlot, you're retarded. You need to watch The Sandlot like now, because it's probably one of, if not the best baseball movie. Field of Dreams is up there, but I don't know if I had to pick one. I mean, Field of Dreams is awesome, but man, Sandlot is just perfect. Especially when you're younger. Maybe as an adult now, you would kind of probably prefer Field of Dreams, but seeing Sandlot as like a teenager, like I did, it kind of hits home. But it's an awesome, awesome movie. It's great. I'm not even like, I like baseball, but I'm not like a huge fan. I had a friend who was a roommate. He was a baseball fanatic, and so that's kind of how I got into it a little bit. But I had seen Sandlot before that, so whether you're a baseball fan or not, it's a great movie. It's awesome. But anyway, so this guy Scott on Tape, he went to the locations for The Sandlot, and I'm like, oh cool, I like The Sandlot. So then I start watching it, and that whole movie was filmed in Utah, in places where I lived as a kid, in places I went to, like to a park. Like a scene where they filmed the baseball scene between like the kids that were on a baseball team and they had uniforms and they're playing the Sandlot kids. Like that field, I've been to that field for like football games for my kid. Like I'm watching, I'm like, what? What? I've been there? I didn't even know. And yeah, and they filmed scenes where I grew up. And I'm just like, like, I don't know, like I was kind of in shock. Like, I knew, there's movies filmed in like every state, and there's probably a YouTube video that shows that, what movies were filmed in every single state. And there's a few of them that have been filmed in Utah. Footloose was a big one, which I knew, and which this guy did, which was interesting. That's how I got on to the Sandlot one. And I was just like, dude, man, if I would have known that, I would have like checked it out. But anyway, while I'm watching this, he's got like somebody with him, right, helping him record and talk about it. He's like another YouTuber or something. And they're showing the addresses where they're at. And for those that don't know, Salt Lake has kind of some crazy addresses at first. When you first think about it, or when you're first there and you're like, what the heck? Why is this 300,000 south? You know what I mean? Like it's big numbers and there's no names. And the guy's like, dude, I don't get this. This is weird. He's all like, thinking it's crazy. But it's actually really, really awesome. And it's really smart the way they laid it out. And I'm going to show a clip right now that kind of talks about it from a YouTube channel, which I'll put a link in if you want to watch. It's actually a pretty interesting history on Salt Lake and Utah and everything. It like I was actually baptized Mormon when I was a kid, but I'm not a Mormon. But love them or hate them. Now, the Mormon community does a lot of good. Salt Lake City is actually an awesome city. It's because of the Mormons, And do I think they're more of a cult or started out as a cult? Yeah, I kind of do. But I know and knew a lot of Mormons who were awesome people and that I worked with and were friends with, and So I don't like hate and think they're, whatever, but love them or hate Brigham Young, dude. He set up Salt Lake Valley. Like it's great, and I'll explain more after this clip.
If you compare the size and shape of city blocks across the US, you'll quickly notice a couple standouts, like how long and narrow a block in New York is, or how small a block in Carson City is. But the one that stands out most to me is the size of a block in Salt Lake City, Utah. This is the largest city block in the country and maybe the world. It's not just the city blocks that are massive. The streets here are so wide that they give us these bright flags so that we can cross them safely. At 132 feet wide, these are the widest streets in the United States. I mean, look at this. They're freaking huge. But when I started looking into why the blocks and streets are like this, I found that it was inseparably linked to the reason the city was built here in the first place.
If a city is more than just...
Yeah, see, so it's to go from that to here in the Philippines, it was a big, because the roads here are so narrow, so nothing. You go from Salt Lake City, and I remember moving from Washington to Utah and thinking that, but not really like, I mean, I realized it, but I didn't think too much about it. Just the roads are huge, so wide and so much room. It's awesome. I didn't realize that the blocks were as big as they are, like the video shows, and the way it's laid out. So you're growing up and living in Salt Lake Valley, because it's mainly the big valley, the Salt Lake Valley, the Salt Lake County, and then you have Utah County, but they're still, as you get out of the Salt Lake Valley, it's still set up the same way. But in Washington, it's like you would have one ways and these curved streets and up hills, and you just like you can't get anywhere. Before GPS, you had to know how to get somewhere. Like you can't where's Rose Street? I don't know. That's somewhere blah blah blah. In Utah, dude, if you got the numbers, it's no problem.
His predecessor and the founder of the LDS Church.
Coming across the plains, he had two documents that were really quite close to him and part of his personal possessions. And one was Joseph Smith's plat for the city of Zion, and the other was Joseph's design of the typical temple for Zion.
The plan laid out perfect square blocks with wide, straight streets, laid in the cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west. It marked out 1 square mile of Joseph Smith's vision for the future city of Zion. At the center of it was the temple. There were a couple versions of the plat of Zion, and this one had 24 temples in the middle, but they all had slightly different purposes. So the temple that we see today kind of takes the place of all of them. So when the pioneers got to the Salt Lake Valley, this is exactly what Brigham Young set out to do. The street widths and block sizes of Salt Lake City are almost precisely what Joseph Smith outlined in the Plat of Zion. And this area, or Plat, is where Brigham Young began. With the temple in the center, all streets indicate their distance from it with their name. The streets around it being north, south, east, and west temple. Then the names of the streets count up by 100 for each block further from the temple they get, succeeded by the accompanying direction. So this would be 100 south, 200 south, 300 south, and so on. So basically, no matter where you find yourself in the city, and not just in the city, but in the whole Salt Lake Valley, you know your distance from the temple based on your address.
The beginning...
Yeah, so did you get that? For those that are on the podcast, I'm sorry. I don't know. I should figure out to separate the audio so you can at least kind of hear it. Because it's talking, but it's just there's also pictures that kind of help. So I was, when I saw the video I was talking about where the guy's like, I don't understand Salt Lake, this is crazy, I mean, he wasn't hating on it, but why do I got my earbuds on? Because I had to watch that video. But it is set up so great. But okay, I lost train of thought. So I watched the video and I was like, you know what? I felt like I wanted to explain how it's set up, right? And I was sitting there thinking of getting some videos of Salt Lake, different ones for different things, and make my own kind of video. But then I ran across this channel, the one that I'll put in the comments that created this video. So I was just like, yeah, just take some of his clips and use it because, he explains it pretty well. And then, God, the dialogue in the you know, his mouth is off because when I recorded it on the program that I use, I always have to record a little bit before, stop it, delete that, and then start again and record. Like that's how I do my podcast with the video. And so everything's lined up, you know. If not, I have to edit it and do all kinds of crap. So that's one thing that I learned. So I try and get in the habit every time I record something to record, stop, do it again, and it usually lines up right. But I didn't do that on this video. That's why it's off, which I hate. It bugs me. I don't know. But anyway, as you saw in that video, everything was based off the temple, right? And that's kind of the way it was planned out. Was, you know, you knew how far you were from the temple. People that go there now, that's not really the case. But and there's temples. There's like the main temple, which is it showed like you had the main temple, and then you had temple roads that went all around it. But you had north, east, south, and west. And when you're in okay, and then from there, after Temple, then it would be 100. Instead of First Street, it's 100. So you have 100 south, and then 100 east. And so whatever south you are will be, you know, how far it is. So it's like, you know, like, okay, I lived on like 14600 south is how it was labeled on the sign. So it was 14600. And then it was like west, like 8500 west. I can't even remember now. No, 2700 west. No. Man, I can't remember. But so if I gave somebody my address, I'm on 146 south. That's what we would say. We wouldn't say 14600. Everybody just kind of took off the last zero. So it was 146 south and 27 west. Or maybe it was 2775, you know, because once you got, you know, you get to 27, then if it was 2775, you know, it was a little further before, you know, you're in between 27 west and 28 west. So it'd be 2710, 2722, whatever. And then, so it was like, I remember when I moved there to Utah the first time, and this was like 2000, 2001. But I lived there as a kid before that, but I'm not going to get into anyway. But, so, I remember my dad sat me down, got a piece of paper, and he drew like Salt Lake, kind of like on that map that video just showed. Here's Salt Lake, that's north. You have the Wasatch Mountains, that's east. And then, you know, south is the other way, and then west is like the mine, the copper, Kennecott, whatever mine, which you could see. And the thing is, so it's like a valley, so everything's pretty flat. So you can see the Wasatch Mountains and know exactly which direction you got to go. You know what I mean? During the daylight. So, you know, so it's like once you teach someone that, you could be a pizza, and you know, obviously now you got GPS, so it doesn't really matter, Waze or whatever. But before all that, though, you just didn't need it. It was so easy to get around, you know. And then I ended up working for my brother and his grandfather, or stepbrother, and pumping concrete. And you know, we'll get the addresses, and then like it's like you'd get the address, and it's crazy. It's like I don't know. You know, hate the Mormons or Brigham Young all you want, but dude, they set up Salt Lake, and it's awesome. It's so easy to get around. It's crazy, you know. You can see which mountain, you can know which direction. This is the address. Bam. I'm going this way. It like it's crazy. It's like, you know, it's just like a battleship, you know. 3B, you know, you get the 3. What I can say, I can't remember now. A4, yeah. So you'd be like A or like, you know, C10. So you go C and then meet up with 10. Bam, there you go. It's set up the same way, and it's so easy. Yeah, are there times you might kind of have a hard time finding stuff because there's like cul-de-sacs or something? Yes. And then you do get to some streets that actually have names, which was pissing me off because like more and more streets in Salt Lake were putting the names on there. They still had the number below it, but they're adding names, and it's like, I hated that. You know, I went from Washington, it's like in Washington State, they'd have names for streets, and it's like you'd have to know Pacific, you'd have to know the names, and then you could kind of go from there. But you don't have to know all that in Salt Lake. Well, I mean, now I don't know. Haven't been there in a while now, but dude, you just get the numbers and you plot it out. It's so easy. It's so simple. It's awesome. But then I remember, I was starting to kind of drive around and starting to see they were naming streets. And so you couldn't really see the number because they'd still leave the number on there, but it'd be like below it. So when you're driving, all you do is see like Harry Street. What's Harry? I don't care who Harry or what. What's the number? I used to get so frustrated because it was like, dude, you had this set up awesome and now you're ruining it. But yeah, there was so I remember, I'd been living there for like 6 months or something. And, this is way after my dad showed me. And I had a friend come visit me from Washington State. And I picked him up. I think it was nighttime he came in. Or was he leaving? No, yeah. So he came in on a flight. And then the next day we were going to go to like Deer Lake and go jet skiing and stuff. Anyway, so I picked him up in my truck. And I had a new Dodge truck. And I was explaining to him how it's set up and how awesome it is, right? And then the rear view mirror has the direction that you're going, So I'm driving, but it was nighttime, so it's kind of hard to see. And my internal compass felt I was facing like west or something, or I felt I was facing one direction, and my mirror was saying another. And I was like, what is going on? Like, I'm trying to explain to him how easy it is to get around here, but then I'm like getting lost, kind of. It's kind of funny, but it is pretty cool. That's one of the things that I loved about Utah. Yeah, I mean, if I had to go back to the States, it'd probably be either Utah or Texas or something that I would live. But yeah, so I don't know. I just kind of wanted to talk about how it's, because I thought it was amazing. Now, with GPS, everybody's got GPS and OnStar or whatever, and just all that crap. So I mean, you don't really need it, I guess. But when the solar flare hits and all that stuff is gone, you're still gonna know how to get around in Utah. It's awesome. You could move there and be sat down. First time moving to Utah. Never been there before. Get sat down, explain how it's set up and how the addresses work, and you could get a job as a pizza delivery guy without a GPS. No problem. No problem. It's so simple and laid out. It's awesome. So, I mean, like I said, hey, my dad used to say it all the time, Joseph Smith, or not, well, yeah, he would say Joseph Smith, but technically it was Brigham Young that set it up. They're whatever, he wasn't really big on the Mormons, but he's like, but they knew how to set up a city or lay it out and everything, so. But yeah, and it's true. It's pretty awesome. If you ever go to Salt Lake, and then the roads, man. So that's the thing, is like I went from those huge, wide roads to these narrow, tiny roads where nobody knows how to drive, and it's just like, oh. So it's taken me a while to adjust. It really is. But yeah. So you get a little spoiled being in America, having all the restaurants and all the stores so close, and the roads. It's like I could see maybe why people. I mean, I'm almost to the point where like I see Americans complaining about shit, and I'm just like, God, man, you're just. If I was an American, I'd be like, dude, you're a douche. I could see why people don't like Americans, because America, you have it all. You have it all. I mean, not everybody, I guess, some people, but compared to any other country, America is set up so great. Yeah, Salt Lake is set up awesome. Not every state and every city is like that, but I've lived in a couple different places, and but then it's just people always find something to complain about, So then when you have people living over in countries such as the Philippines, where, like, for me, the only two, okay, so there's Chowking, which is like a fast food, like a Panda Express sort of, except you order it like you would like McDonald's. You have Jollibee, which is the Filipino McDonald's, and then you have McDonald's. And then every time a new building's being built, I'm like, oh, something new. What is it? Another Jollibee. What? Let's get a freaking Wendy's or something, And then it's just, just certain other things I've talked about in the past. It's Americans are spoiled brats. We really are. And when people see or know how America is and then sees Americans being the way they are and, oh, yeah, they're like, dude, you're whatever. And that's a big reason why people don't like America too, you know. I mean, yeah, they don't like the government and the politics and stuff too, but I made, on my last video, which I talked about the guy, the citizen being kidnapped, I had a comment from a dude that was like, you know, I hate to tell you, but a lot of people don't like America. And it's true, you know. But it's not, it's just because America has everything, and then plus they get involved in everything too. It's like, we just need to butt out, man. But, you know, it's true. People love America, but they hate Americans. You know what I mean? Because we're spoiled. Or we were spoiled. And it shows, like, with my kids, dude. Like, I remember for Christmas in America, it was like, dude, we would spend so much money on all these presents. Oh, huge, whatever. When it's all done, you got a massive pile of wrapping paper. Here, dude, we get them, like, one little gift and this and that. And they're good, though. Like, my kids are just, like, they're happy with it. You know what I mean? They're not, I mean, they still bug me for, like, oh, hey. Like, my one kid right now, he wants the NBA 2K25 or something. Like, right now, his birthday's coming up. So I'm like, dude, shut it. Okay, your birthday's coming. So, I mean, you know, you get a little bit of that. But they've really been living here has really kind of grounded them and what's the word? Just, I don't know, made them kind of, made them, you know, more grounded. I don't know. I can't think of the word right now. This is the Objective Jerk, and you've been listening to Lost for Words. But that's it. Thanks for listening. Appreciate you. God bless, and have a good one. All right, bye.